Hello, Extra Time.
They're important to the league not to get a hype because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
But simple look, they're playing in the League of Ireland, they're playing in the Europa League, and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
You're very welcome to the Extratime.ie Sportscast. Myself, Declan Marron, joined this week by Donnelly and Macdara Ferris. Lads, hope you're in good form. I was about to talk this show up in terms of, you know, everything went off without a hitch. We had WATCHLOI, which looked to be a resounding success bar. A couple of little patchy moments in the streams, a red error message and a little bit of audio troubles at the start. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone off without a hitch because we've just today, before we're going to record, had the news come through that Waterford Sligo is postponed due to essentially a potential COVID test for one of the Waterford players. As a result, this game won't be taking part tomorrow as it is recording on a Monday. So we're going to have to talk a little bit about this. We have got Ronan Coughlan coming on the show later today as well. Ronan, I had planned to get him on a little while back. We spoke to him a good while ago for some little FIFA tournament, and I wanted to get him on a while back, but I figured he's got a game tomorrow, so I should leave him be. But not going to be the case now, so hopefully we get a bit of reaction from Ronan as well on that. But just in front of me here, lads, I've got Waterford's statement. I'll just talk a little bit about that. At 8:45 this morning, a player from our senior team reported to the club doctor with flu-like symptoms and has been sent for testing immediately. We're awaiting the results of the test. Until the results of the test are known, the club will cease all operations, including training and staff meetings. So, concerning stuff. It seems like this might be one of the rare cases of a league restart that has been damaged by this. We were talking a little bit off air before we started recording about trying to recall too many other leagues doing this. There hasn't been any.
Oh yeah, I just saw Con Murphy was tweeting out. Con has been doing commentary on the Portuguese league, so he was saying there was a player at Benfica, David Tavares, who tested positive. So when he went into quarantine, Benfica were able to play the rest of the games. Obviously, everyone else had been tested and been clear as well. So, Waterford's statement is it's saying that it's not a confirmed case. So hopefully, it is just regular flu, if we can call that. But both myself and Dave were actually at 4 games over the weekend, and Dave was at that Sligo Waterford game as well. So, we would have gone through protocols to attend the game. So I know I was talking to one of the COVID officers. All the clubs have one at the games, and on Saturday, it was 193 people at that Shamrock Rovers Finn Harps game. So everyone going in, they had the name, they had the number. Before you went into the ground, you had to have your temperature tested. Everyone, bar the players on the field and the managers on the bench, everyone else was wearing a mask. So the subs were sitting up in the stands wearing masks as well. I'm going down to the St. Pat's Derry City game this evening, so I had to do just a survey monkey, going through a few things, just making sure that I was healthy enough to go to the game. So, everything had been put in place, a lot of work put in place. So, there's no suggestion that something came up at the game. Just, these things can happen, but we put all the mechanisms in place, certainly at the games that I was at. Dave, maybe you can talk about the couple of games you were at as well, and these things just happen.
How are you feeling, Dave, actually? Because that's concerning. You're no sniffles about yourself?
I always have sniffles, so it doesn't really hard to tell. But no, I don't have any symptoms of any sort. I wasn't actually around any players. I interviewed John Sheridan after the game, but keeping my distance, obviously. But I don't know. There's what do you call it? The not security, but the precautions that were being taken in Talca Park were fairly extensive. I know I got my temperature taken going in, and it was a very, very healthy 36.4. And I assume all the players did as well. So whatever player it is who is displaying these symptoms, he probably wasn't displaying them that day. So it's hard to really know. But I suppose just to comment on, we don't know who the player is and we won't speculate on who it is. But it's I suppose it's good that they were responsible enough to actually bring it up to people and make sure everybody knows so that there's no danger of maybe any potential case spreading anymore, because we know it's been a problem around the country recently with people maybe displaying symptoms and not going straight in and getting tests. So it's a good thing from that perspective that the players brought it to everyone's attention.
And it's just worth noting that the player didn't play in the match. They travelled with the matchday squad, but they didn't play in the game.
That being said, should we be concerned? I mean, it might happen by the time we're done recording here even, but you would imagine Finn Harp, Shelburne might be under threat then, considering Shell's played Waterford. You can't really guarantee that none of the player. I know the player wasn't on the pitch, but
the teams didn't actually come into contact with each other apart from on the field. Shell's changed in their usual dressing rooms, and Waterford changed down in the bar, so there was no real contact between the two squads, from what I know.
And similarly in Oriel Park on Friday night, Dundalk trained in their, the training centre, and St. Pat's were changing in the dressing rooms below the main stand. So that was typical. I saw the match officials came out from another entrance in Tallaght Stadium. I think they might have been changing in the Glenmalure Suite, or came up that entrance. And a lot of people were going to talk about WATCHLOI. People would have watched the games over the weekend. They would have seen the teams went in separately at halftime, and they came out to warm up. It was at a separate distance as well. So, so they were the methods that were put in place on match day.
People will be asking a little bit about why it is that a League of Ireland game gets postponed when we, as you said, we kind of had games elsewhere in the Premier League. Even as a good example, Watford even, just Waterford on the mind. Watford had players, that looked like potentially had COVID or were being tested for COVID, and there was no games postponed on that side. I suppose this is probably a little bit different in that we've got 2 days to the game before this test come out. So maybe we would have seen this at a couple of other clubs, but yeah, I don't know really if there's anything, if it's just some bad luck, if there's anything really any of the clubs could have done to avoid this. But it seems like everyone's followed protocol, and as a result, this will, I suppose, just push this game. We might get a few more midweek games out of it, Macdara. It was one thing we were saying we're not going to have.
Yeah.
Hopefully we push this one back, we get a midweek game. But look, considering that's sort of happening as we record here, we won't go too much further on that. What we will do is we'll talk a little bit about WATCHLOI and what it's been like reporting from empty stadiums. Your reactions on that, lads. I thought all went, as I said at the start, you could see the absolute tirade of people on Twitter going mad about the audio for the first 2 minutes when Derry and Sligo kicked off. And it was one of the things, everyone calm down. We all know it's not going to be like this for 90 minutes. There's no need to get really wound up. I thought all in all, from the games I watched anyway, it went quite well. There wasn't too many audio troubles overall. It was a little bit skippy, but that happens with the best of streams, I think, at times. And no complaints on my side. Yeah,
no, I watched the games on Friday. I know, Dave, you were at a match. So yeah, I enjoyed the experience as well. Bar, oh my God, they better get this right after about kind of 10 minutes. I think seemingly the crowd noise has been pumped in the ground. So Derry City were playing crowd noise over the PA. So seemingly that was what the story was.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So, but eventually, I don't know, maybe they just turned it down or they were able to do it. But yeah, so most of us, bar Dave, just turned into those fans we hate, those people who just support their team, watch them on TV. Or I was saying, you go full hog, you go bar stooler if you wanted to go down the pub and pay for a €9 dinner and watch the game over 105 minutes. But yeah, it was good to see. I thought the first game, Adrian Eames did commentary, he was on his own, but they had he did a very good job on the day. They had replays, they had zoomed in bits and pieces. So no, it was good. And then the second match was also live in RT. So that had the kind of multiple camera. It was Pat Fenlon up in the gantry in Oriel Park with George Hamilton commentary. But I think what was quite powerful as well, watching on the games and particularly being at a match over the weekend, was the players kneeling in support of Black Lives Matter. Just we had photographers nearly, I think, at every game Extratime had, and just looking across the photographs from all the matches, it was quite powerful. But I did laugh that there was one of the Finn Harps players who had forgotten they were doing that, and when Neil Doyle blew the whistle, off he went into the Shamrock Rovers half and then quickly kneeled down, which I had seen in a couple of other games as well. At a match I was at on Sunday, Adriano Real was the referee, and just before he blew for a kickoff, he went, "Lads, we're going to be taking the knee," and so everyone knew. But I thought that was quite powerful as well, just ahead of kickoff. So I think they're going to do that for a number of matches over the next couple of weeks.
Whole season, yeah.
Dave, how did you find, I suppose, reporting from games number one? Because it's not a totally new experience not having a massive crowd at every League of Ireland.
This is the League of Ireland. And Dave, where were you on Friday night?
The UCD Bowl.
There you go.
Right. So not a massive change for you in that regard. But in terms of...
I actually looked up their recent attendances. I counted I think about 36 people, including players, in the stands, which isn't too far off. I think their last attendance was something like 250. So it's not a million miles away, but it's it kind of, with the spacing out, actually the ground looks more full than you think. So it's in terms of volume, I guess the normal the UCD ultras were still there, so that they still had the four lads making a bit of noise. So it wasn't really any different from my point of view. I think there was because of the venue that UCD play in, it is kind of possible to kind of sneak around the stadium and catch a view of the game. And I think our Dempsey found out that his dad and his brother were hiding behind a mesh fence at one point watching the match. So it's kind of it's a different atmosphere, I suppose. But it's it wasn't too. It didn't feel too weird, I don't think. Even though obviously you'd miss the fans being around you as well.
It was exactly what I wanted to say. I said this to you last week, Macdara, so we do have to give a shout out to those other three. I think it was 3 Longford fans. Maybe it was 3 UCD fans. Longford had tweeted that it was 3 Longford fans, so I'm going to believe them in that regard. But
no, I think I know who they are, and they are.
Fair enough. I shout out to those lads, because it was exactly what I wanted to see. One of them even to the point where it was like Wilson from Home Improvement, a proper just like nose and eyes, like not even the arms or anything hanging about or leaning on anything. It was very much like the most minimal view. You couldn't even get your full head over the fence, so really appreciate that. But
RT's coverage picked up, WATCHLOI's coverage picked up a guy just watching from his front door in Derry, because you could look over. But I think, joking aside though, I actually don't think we should condone that. Like, really don't want people coming to the games. I think there's enough for the clubs to be organising. So I'm going to get my high horse and maybe just make that point.
That's fine. But
now, having said that, of course, I was at 2 games over the weekend, so yeah. But I did have the experience of watching on the television. But I think there's a reason why these things have been put in place.
Absolutely, but I don't see the harm, as you said, in just 1 or 2 here or there. But as you said, if you start seeing people piling up, you absolutely don't want that. And if people are able to watch it from their front door and we get photos sent of that, I'm all for that. But yeah, I think
he had a great photo from that from the Rovers Harps game of I think it was 3 local teenagers trying to climb over not trying to climb over, but standing up on one of the gates in Tallaght trying to get a view.
I think all in all, we'd say though, pretty successful start for WATCHLOI. I see a lot, like generally the reaction I've seen is good. Everyone seems to be saying they don't want to go back to a time without it now. Again, we'll talk more about it as time goes on. Like, I watched a couple of games back, even the Super Sunday game between Cork and Bows, and I watched that back, and it was ideal just being able to click in and go straight into it. It's beautiful. But let's talk about a few of the games then. Sligo, massive win for them. And on the first WATCHLOI experience, a vital win back. I thought Derry looked very, very sluggish at times, but Sligo looking sharp. And this is without Junior. You're kind of going, maybe they didn't need that expensive transfer. They might be all right.
They were well deserving of the win, I thought. Yeah, Declan Devine talking afterwards, was very disappointed with how his team played. That's like 3 defeats, I think, in a row. Obviously, either side of the break as well. But they got a chance on Monday night to get back home when they travelled down to Pats.
One of those things though, Derry had a month longer than anybody bar the other European teams to train, and they, looking at that game, they don't seem to have particularly come out of it with any advantage over any other team. Certainly not Sligo, who looked a much improved team, even though they haven't brought in Junior yet. But it's a strange one from Derry's point of view, because if you look at their 5 games, if they hadn't got that offside equaliser in injury time against Finn Harps, they'd be looking at 4 losses out of 5, which is very unusual for a team that I think a few of us would have picked for a top 4 finish this year.
Just on the training, Robbie Benson made that point after the game in Oriel Park, that he felt Dundalk were maybe a little bit sluggish because they had so long to train, as opposed to Pats coming back, because Dundalk were able to train earlier, because there was talk there was going to be a top 4 competition. So I thought that was an interesting point that Robbie Benson made, who came back to haunt his old club.
Absolutely. Just on that Sligo game, even when you're saying sluggish is one thing, there was a little bit of timidness at times from Derry, I thought, as well. You look at the goal from Callum McFadden, which you'd expect being a tongue-twisting name the odd time for commentators, but Ames did a great job, I thought, on having to repeat that about 5 times after the goal. But he met Donlan's cross for the corner brilliantly. But you do feel at times, you're like, somebody impede him, stand in his way or not. Maybe he was just able to shove everyone out of the way. But just watching it back even today, I thought somebody should be standing in his way, just impeding his run a little bit better there. Coughlan obviously scored from the spot then. I thought he was magnificent at times. He looked really, really sharp. And we'll talk to him a little bit about that later. His first touch at some points in that game was excellent. I'm not sure if you saw the Sligo tweet. Stream this man on WATCHLOI before we put him on OnlyFans, which is an interesting one. I'm not sure about putting someone on OnlyFans. I don't think that's how it works. That doesn't sound consensual, if you ask me. We might ask Ronan about that later on. Dundalk, meanwhile, a little bit of sluggishness. You mentioned yourself, Macdara. I mean, let's start with Pats. I don't want to start off with Dundalk because Pats look really sharp. I was very surprised by this. I've been talking to a few Pats friends of mine saying, Stevie O'Donnell's getting a lot of credit for having done not a whole lot yet. You know what I mean? A lot of people seem to have him built up as this or that. And that's just purely just watching games so far. I'm like, wait to see a few more games, I suppose. And from that, I changed my mind completely. I'm Georgie Kelly into that team now. And they will be absolutely flying. They look like they're really, really good. Is it a bit too harsh to say about Dundalk that while they have a lot of good players, a lot of match winners and often better players in the team, that they look a little bit unremarkable and maybe have done for a while?
I was saying that, there's been times, the odd time when Dundalk have not played well, they've been able to get a win. And when they got they got handed nearly a goal from Pats, it was a very bad defensive error. And you thought when they went 1-0 up, that'll be it. But Pats look back pretty much straight away and Robbie Benson scored. But throughout the game, they really pressed Dundalk hard. They hassled them. And I think anyone watched the games would have, I think the likes of Jordan Gibson and David Titoff who came in, they looked to be decent players as well. So like Stephen O'Donnell seems to have brought a couple of extra players in. Yeah, and he wasn't able to play Georgie Kelly because of the loan arrangement from Dundalk. So, I'd seen Pats play Waterford on the season and hadn't been great that night. So, but yeah, they started off, bar getting a win, they did everything else they could have done on the night.
I thought they looked, a couple of players, you mentioned Benson, I thought he looked excellent, which is great to see because I was a little bit worried having seen, the sort of reoccurring injuries. You start getting a few niggly injuries here and there after a serious injury, and you're always worried for a player like that because he's magnificent to watch when he gets going. He's brilliant. Him and Jamie Lennon in particular, I thought Lennon was so good in the middle up against some top class players. But you know what I'm getting at with Dundalk without trying to be too harsh on them. If you look at Flores, Duffy, all these match winners in their own right, and you've got the power and the sort of reliableness of Hooban up top. So they have got players, like as you said, when they're playing bad, they can still score and win and get through games. But I just feel like I can't remember the last time I kind of came away being impressed with some of the stuff they played, Like even that night, the Shamrock Rovers game, the 3-2 earlier in the season, I was like, they should have been beaten even worse in that game, I thought.
I don't think they haven't shown what they even showed last year in terms of just being able to, they're probably a more functional team than they were when Stephen Kenny was in charge. Vinnie Perth is his own coach, has his own style. But this year, so far, they haven't really shown the attributes that they showed last year. I know they had a difficult start to the season last year, but it feels a little bit different this time. It doesn't kind of feel like they're getting back to the level that they have shown they can be at, and particularly on the opening day against Shelbourne, I felt I can't remember seeing a Dundalk team in years that make that many basic errors in a game, and they don't quite look like the complete unit that they were before. I'm sure with David McMillan back and everything like that, they're fully capable of getting it back together. But at the moment, they're not really on that level. And with only 18 games, only 12 left this season, I think it's a limited window of time for them to actually, make that improvement and, get back that 5-6 points that they need to overcome Rovers at this point.
Just a quick word on Kolovich as well, because again, Macdara mentioned how interesting it'd be to watch him last week, and I thought, even though he didn't play the whole game, he looks a serious addition to that team. There was one move in particular, he did a bit of a run, I think beat a player or two, and hit this amazing crossfield ball to Duffy, and that's going to be a serious combo. If he's cutting inside and hitting Duffy, who's running into the box, that'll be a frightening one now for other teams to have to deal with. Let's talk quickly about Shamrock Rovers, because we're going to hear from Stephen Bradley in a minute here, but they're picking up where they left off. Macdara, looked a relatively straightforward one for them.
Yeah, it was. Like, they were well on top, and when they went 3-0 up early enough in the game, it was like this could be a bit of a rout. Like, Ollie Horgan had come with his team and essentially played 5 at the back, but Rovers kind of sat off in the second half, and we'll hear Stephen Bradley talking about it. But he was saying he was asked about, myself and Oisín Langham were talking to him afterwards, and Oisín asked him about the experience of this game behind closed doors, and what he picked up on was his Rovers' poor second half performance. He said it wouldn't have happened if there was crowd here. He said the fans would have got on their back and would have let them know and would have got them going. I think we spoke last week about home wins. So there was 10 games in the league this weekend. There was only one was a home win, and that was Shamrock Rovers. The average normally would be 4 out of every 10 games. So I know it's a small pool of matches we're talking about, but I just thought that was an interesting point that Stephen Bradley made about it. And there was a couple of players that he's brought. Aaron Bulger back in on loan. Graham Burke have extended his loan deal. So Greg Bulger was at the game with one of those massive casts on his kind of ankle and shin because he had to have leg surgery. So, but yeah, Rovers were very impressive. Jack Byrne scored the free kick. Everyone was seeing. He's got 2 assists. Stephen Kenny was watching on. There was a big crew from the FAI there. Mark Scanlon, the new League of Ireland director, was at the game as well. But yeah, basically kind of picked up where they left off. But a home game against a Finn Harp side that they'd beaten 10 games in a row, that was exactly the kind of game they wanted just to ease themselves into it.
Macdara, just on the sound or the noise aspect of it, I tuned in expecting that I'd be treated to 90 minutes of the symphony of Ollie Horgan and Paul Hegarty shouting at everything that moves on the pitch. I don't know how it sounded in the stadium, but I didn't get what I paid for.
Well, I think Hegarty was suspended, so that maybe is your disappointment there. No, there was plenty of Ollie. Yeah, the only thing is that I think in Tala the camera's over the far side, so maybe that's where the microphones were. So maybe you didn't get the full experience, but there was plenty of blue language from all managers and players during the matches. So
what you're telling me is that I can look forward to hearing the best of Ollie in future.
Yeah. Home games. That's what you want to tune in for.
Well, let's hear from Stephen Bradley right now then, on your post-match interview.
Stephen, you must be delighted with the win, the 3 points. Maybe disappointed you actually didn't kick on maybe in the second half.
Yeah, we were. I thought first half we were outstanding, the tempo and how we played, and delighted with the 3 points. Would have taken before the game 3-1, but I think you're right. Second half, we can definitely be better in terms of we're a bit sloppy and slow, but I think that's the effects of the long layoff and the long break, and I think the players knew that and they're happy to win, but second half wasn't us like.
And it was a great free kick by Jack Byrne.
Yeah.
He also 2 assists as well for the other 2 goals, so he played really well today in front of Stephen Kenny was here watching on.
Yeah, that's what Jack does, isn't he? He has that quality. He's that's why we got him on the pitch today. He hasn't trained a lot in the last few weeks. His back's been at him, but that's the reason you get him on the pitch, because he wins you the game in the first half. So he got tired and we got him out, but no, he was excellent. His free kick was real quality. And
you have the opportunity of making 5 subs. Does it make much of a difference? Like, what does it change your thinking than normal matches?
It's great. In my opinion, it's great because you have so many options in terms of changes. Like, it's fantastic. When you look at our bench today, it was really, really strong. And there's still some to come back into, so it gives us great options.
And you got a chance to give Dean Williams a couple of minutes. I think maybe only his second appearance at the first team with a competitive game. He's
unfortunate not to start, to be honest. Dean, he's been brilliant, and it was really, really tight decision whether to play him or not. He's unfortunately didn't play, but Dean's a player at this club that we rate really highly, and he'll score goals for us in this season and in the future. He's a real quality player.
What was it that really impressed you about your team today in the 3-1 win against Finn Harps?
I thought first half we were brilliant. I thought our energy, our tempo, our sharpness on the ball, and the first half was really, really good. I thought we couldn't have asked for much more. scored 3 goals and played really well. Obviously disappointed with the goal we gave away, and the second half was like I said, was below par, but I thought first half we were excellent.
How did you find the whole experience, being on the sidelines, not having fans? Because like we all built it up in our heads and we all knew it was different, but until you actually go through it, I don't think you actually kind of realise what's happening, what's going on.
Yeah, no, it is. It's obviously different. Where I think it takes effect the second half, and we have that little lull, that wouldn't happen if we had 5, 6, 7,000 here, because they'd let you know and they'd be on your back and they'd get you going. And I think that's where, for us as the home team, we've got to understand that when that lull comes, that the crowd isn't there to help us through. So that was definitely different, and we need to learn to adapt to that quickly.
As you say, 3 goals in the first half, none in the second. Is that disappointing? Do you put that down to anything? What do you make of it?
Just in general, the second half we weren't good. I felt second half we were a bit sloppy and slow, and everything we done, our decision making was off. So if you play like that in the second half, you're not very rarely you're going to score goals. So like I said, it's good to have that when you're 3-1 up and the game's over, and you have that second half and the points up the mark and it's out of the way, and it won't happen us again. We move on.
You are 5 points clear at the top. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, delighted. Would have taken this at the start of the year. We know there's a lot of football to play. We understand that. But any time you can have a 5-point lead is brilliant. And
I think you've now officially become a long-term manager, long-term head coach. It's been talked about an awful lot. I'm sure lots of people have been saying it to you that I think you're the longest-serving head coach stroke manager since Ray Tracy. That in itself is an achievement for any manager. For a manager to have a job that long, it suggests that things are going well.
Yeah, look, especially at this club, because it's such a big club and it's a demanding club. Well, I think that's credit to the board, that when we sat down and we had a plan, that we've stuck to it. And it's by no means finished. We're only getting going. I think the cup win was the one to kick us off. But like I said, there's a lot of factors in there that when we sat down, we knew it would take time to change. They knew it would take time to change, and we stuck to our plan.
And you're keeping your squad together as well, which is important. And it says an awful lot about the club.
Yeah, it does. I think players want to play here now. I think you look at Graham when he's leaving Preston on loan, he has 5 or 6 options in England, Scotland and here. And the club he wants to come to is here. Jack, yeah, I think it says what we're doing with this club is right.
Steve, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
That is some stat that he's the longest coach since John Giles. That genuinely I would not have, if that's a quiz question, that I wouldn't have been anywhere near. Incredible stat.
Yeah, we need to credit Carl Riley with that, because that was in the match programme, which I think a lot of clubs were producing hard copy match programmes. So I got in the post on Wednesday, so made my job doing the preview a lot easier. So that went in the preview. I think it also went out on the commentary as well. So, but obviously, yeah, Carl Riley saw that one. But managers haven't stayed that long. Like Michael O'Neill was only Michael O'Neill had 3 seasons at the club.
Most of the 90s, there was only, I don't think anybody lasted longer than about a year, did they?
I know there was like Liam Buckley was there for a while, Damien Richardson was there for a while, but they kind of did 3 seasons, which is kind of typical. Like managers don't come in like that. But Stephen Bradley talked about what the plan was, and when he took over the squad, he pretty much cleared them out. So it's been a build up. But yeah, he just overcame. Ray Tracy was the previous longest serving manager, but yeah, it goes back to Giles, who was manager I think across 6 seasons between 77 and 83.
Has anyone reached out to John for comment? Is he disappointed that his record has been surpassed? I have a feeling he probably wouldn't. He might be on off the ball. Someone could put it to him there, text in.
Yeah, no, he still has the record. So
sorry.
Should Stephen Bradley be manager for another 2 seasons, I think he'll break the record. So
my point being, John's not too fussed either way.
No, I don't think. I don't. Giles didn't win much of his time at Rovers. He didn't win a league title. He won an FAI Cup, so Bradley's done that at least as well.
Okay. All right, fair enough. They're 1 for 1. Elsewhere, a couple of the other games then, Dave, you can maybe talk to us a little bit about Waterford Shells. It's a solid start for Sheridan at Waterford, who I think you'd be forgiven in the fact that he's probably not had that long to work with them. They look like they were scrabbling to put together a bench even, which is funny actually, Macdara. Just when you were saying the 5 players, I saw, when Stephen Bradley said there about we have such a strong bench. And here's a great example of the the lack of fairness for that, because Waterford were scrabbling to to get a full bench together in that sense. So the 5 subs I'm not too sure about, but from John's point of view, massive win for them. They probably wouldn't have been expecting that one.
Yeah, it's I suppose it's I don't know about expecting it. I think everyone probably would have said that Shelbourne started the season better than Waterford did, but it was a dreadful game. It was really, really bad. Shells in the first half went 4-4-2, and Sheridan was playing basically a 4-5-1, but similar to the sort of one that Jack Charlton employed against Italy in the 94 World Cup, where it's basically 5 players behind the halfway line and then Tommy Coyne standing up front on his own. And in this case, Curtis Byrne, one of several new signings, was the Tommy Coyne, and he looked very kind of lonely up there. But it obviously it worked for them, because for the first half they had most of the ball, and they caused Shell's problems every time they got on the flanks, because Shelbourne were playing a very narrow sort of 4-4-2 with Carl Shepherd coming in off the wing, and they just got completely, they were out-thought basically. It was very strange tactically. I don't know why it didn't change sooner, but at half-time they changed the 4-3-3. Ryan Brennan came on, and they finally got a foothold in the game. But really, the only real chances in the game fell to Waterford. The goal in particular was, another case of Matty Smith got in down the left, loads of space, because there was no real coordination between the wide men on the right hand side for Shell's, crossed it in. Timmy Sabawale coming back from, I don't know where he's been for the last couple of years, but he's coming back to the club, and he's actually a striker, but he was making his second debut at right back, and he looked quite comfortable there, but he headed the ball back in. Byrne tried to stab it in. It was saved at close quarters by Colin McCabe, but just an open goal then for God, I can't remember, John Martin to stick into the open net. And really it was probably Waterford had the better chances to win it. But after the game, I think John Sheridan alluded to, I suppose, the pitch. It did look particularly kind of unkept, I suppose. The grass was quite long. I don't know if that's a tactical decision again, but it wasn't really conducive to very good football. There wasn't really much football played by either side, and Sheridan even kind of sort of suggested afterwards that the condition that the RSC is in will probably play against them to an extent, because the surface is good and it will be conducive to flowing football. I don't know if Sheridan has a reputation for playing flowing football or anything like it, but we'll see how that team builds over the next while, particularly as they brought in Daryl Murphy now, which is a big signing for the league, 36, I think, international caps.
When's he going to be able to play? Is that just down to
it's looking like about a month he's out. He's got a calf problem that was pre-existing, so he's he's in light training. They brought in Jake Davidson from Dundee United, 19-year-old midfielder. He don't think he's played an awful lot of league football, but he's in there too. And Michael O'Connor is signed as well. He was at the match. Seems to be off the crutches from the injury he picked up against Rovers in pre-season, or in pre-restart. So I think they do look like they're going to have a few more options, particularly up front going forward. But they are quite light squad wise, and I think I kind of noted during the game that in defence only Tyreek Wilson of the back four was actually playing in his preferred position. Sam Bowen was playing centre half, so while he was playing right back, and it did look a little bit unbalanced, but I suppose they're just tacking together numbers at the moment. And again, but with Brian Murphy alongside Alan Mannix, probably the best in the league as well. So I don't think they'll be conceding an awful lot of goals, but I'm not sure they'll be providing an awful lot of entertainment either.
No, I think you can see that. Even your man, isn't it Robbie Weir, who's down, who I think he'd been at Chesterfield and stuff like that recently. It's a kind of like a solid player in there, plenty of experience in the midfield. So they seem to have gone with that kind of thing, which is desperately needed. It will be interesting to see Sheridan though. He looks a bit of a character. I was reading his interview with Dan McDonnell in the end, though, and you were saying, Dave, about the pitches, and he kind of made a couple of jokes about that before, talking about the quality of the league and Shamrock Rovers, saying they've got Burke and Jack, what's his name?
Yeah, no, he took a long time to get Jake Davidson's name right. He just kept saying Jake, and he was looking over at the Waterford press man, and he was like, "What's his name again?" He's Davidson. And then a minute later, he's like, "Yeah, so we've got in Jake. What's his name?"
Did like the Ipswich thing with Bielsa. Ipswich.
Yeah. This is Bobby Robson when I can't remember which player it was.
It was very.
He was asked if Bobby has a nickname for him, and he goes, "Yeah." And they go, "What is it?" And he goes, "Carl Court."
Yeah, Bobby had difficulty with a few, I think. Lastly, then Cork and Bows. Before we get on, we'll get on to some First Division in the later part of the show. But Cork Bows, obviously Mandrew missing from that one, supposedly injured in a friendly, which I didn't realise. But I thought
he was injured early in the Longford game.
Right, I thought it was interesting as well. McGuinness still preferred to Talbot. I know Talbot was after making a comeback, and to be fair to McGuinness, been excellent so far. Although there was that moment in that game, I think it was about an hour in, where he nearly gifted Keane Murphy a goal just by not kicking it out maybe a little bit earlier after closing it down. And Jesus, that was close. That could have been an absolute howler, and that could have been him back on the bench. But yeah, it looks like the goal was scored very early in that one, and while both sides it was probably again one of those very rusty games. Like there was actually moments of quality from each side, I thought, but the kind of final end product was rusty on both accounts. Andrew Wright with the goal. It actually weird goal when Wright scored that, because I think it was Bennett. The ball was rolling towards the line, beating McNulty after McNulty had made the original save. And Bennett has his two arms stuck out as if it's going wide. The ball rolls into the net. You can see McNulty's furious. He's like, "When you go back and throw the body to keep that off?" But yeah, I think overall, again, not the greatest game, but it probably, again, similar excuse, bit of rustiness about each side.
It's a lovely finish from Wright, though. I suppose you could say that Andre got it right, but Alan got it all wrong.
Save it for the papers, you. This is the podcast. This doesn't work here. Right, well, look, we're going to chat to Ronan Coughlan next, and then we'll talk a little bit First Division later on.
And there's kind of a lot of grumbling about maybe we don't have enough Premier League players, but in terms of the Championship,
But what's the point in grumbling about it?
But the step
I can't hold about it, can I? If they're not playing the play, what's the point of me grumbling?
The step up to international football in the Championship is it easily managed?
Well, I tell you back there when we played in 2002, what's the point of me grumbling? We had lads who were all at the bottom of the Premier League, real scrapping away, Kince and Matty Holland, and I had Gary Breen who hadn't even got a club. What's the point of me grumbling? So I don't subscribe to that, you just... Whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'll get them together and make the best of them and try and make sure we qualify. Grumbling is not one of the things I do.
You can subscribe to each new episode of the Extratime.ie Sportscast on iTunes. Please give a rating or add a comment there to let us know your views.
Delighted to be joined now by Ronan Coughlan of Sligo Rovers. Ronan, I was going to say originally when we were going to have you on the show that it's sort of an ideal time in that, you guys got your first win of the season. You played a bit of a stormer the first game on WATCHLOI, and you managed to grab a goal yourself. But then since then the news has come true that the game tomorrow against Waterford has been suspended with one of their players presenting symptoms and needing to be tested. Obviously disappointing to have an interruption already at this point, sort of interrupting the flow of games. I'm not sure if you've even had a chance to gauge your teammates' reactions. I think you were saying to me off air there that you guys had just sort of found out after training. So what's the feeling from the players or yourself even with all this? Is it a bit concerning?
Look, it is. Like we've obviously only kind of heard that when we were finishing training, getting ready for the game tomorrow, that look, it's only, we're not sure if he hasn't been fully tested yet, has he? So it's only like symptoms. So we're obviously waiting to hear, and so is everyone else. But obviously it's just a bit gutting more than anything that hopefully, obviously you're thinking the worst, that hopefully no other games get affected, say. But it is a bit sickening, especially after the good win there against Derry at Saturday. So it's kind of killing momentum a little bit, but I think there's nothing we can do. We just have to get on with it now.
Yeah, I suppose, especially in the groove, you guys are starting to get in as well after that win. I imagine it'll be a couple of extra training sessions or something like that, do you think? Or have you guys even had a chance to talk about that yet?
No, yeah. We've got, obviously our schedule is going to be changed now for the week. We'll be off tomorrow or whatever, and then we'll be different training now. We'll be in the gym and stuff. So we'll all be just getting ready now for the Shells game on Saturday, which hopefully won't be affected because they obviously played them on the Saturday, I think. Whatever day Waterford played them, so hopefully there's nothing nothing comes back hopefully from the Waterford thing, and then we can always go ahead and we'll be able to play Shells and look forward to that. Like, so yeah, definitely the schedule will be changed, but we just got to do what we have to do now, and if the game goes ahead on Saturday.
I imagine people who outside of the League of Ireland would watch the Premier League and see that play out an uninterrupted sort of end to the season, and how straightforward that was as well. We mentioned earlier on the show there was a few reports here and there from clubs like Watford and Brighton at times, but that everything ran pretty smoothly. And it's obviously not quite as straightforward from the League of Ireland here. But can you tell us sort of what guidelines or rules players are having to follow during this for games? Like, what was that experience like for games beforehand?
Yeah, it was all right. Like, I suppose since we've been coming back, like, it's been the same kind of procedures. Like, you're getting your temperature checked and social distancing, and you're wearing your mask and stuff. So it's gone smoothly enough. And the game was fine. You turned up, different, obviously, way of entering. We were obviously up in Brandywell or the Ryan McBride. We're up there, and there's a different way of entering the stadium, and we're all spread out, separated. It's fine. Like, you have to do it, I suppose, so you can't really say anything, but it was fine. Obviously, the no fans, the only probably thing that you notice most about the games, but other than that, it went smooth enough.
How does it affect you guys even in your interaction with each other? Are you always kind of conscious, or is it more or less like, look, we're all here, it's all fine, we've travelled up on the bus together or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Does it affect day to day all that much?
No, I'd say when we first came back, probably there was a few lads maybe a bit iffy or whatever it was. Like, I suppose it's just down to whatever, really. But now, like, yeah, now you said, everyone's more comfortable around each other. They're trying to keep, like, the distance and all that as much as you can, but, like, you know what I mean? It's a contact sport, and you're training every day with each other, and then, like, you can't really ask lads to stand away from each other then. So, no, like, as much as you can, like, obviously on the bus, we're spread out between the seats, but, like, you know what I mean? Lads are going to chat away and speak to each other like it's normal. So, but no, they are doing the best they can, like, and still getting our temperature checked and all that. It's a bit weird, but like, it's all right now. All the boys are kind of calm about it, so hopefully we can just keep playing. In
terms of sort of following guidelines, I was wondering as well, just with this WATCHLOI setup, it's probably not all that conducive, or it's probably not all that relevant to you guys, because once you step out there, your head switches to that. But I imagine broadcasting games usually means there's a bit more scrutiny on what you're doing, and particularly with zero crowd noise now. I read that you guys had obviously been told not to swear and stuff like that, which I can only imagine is tough to be conscious of during the heat of the moment of the game. But is there I was wondering, is there fines for that kind of thing? Have you guys been spoken to for any sort of what you are or aren't supposed to do, or be warned off anything?
No, I didn't hear anything about the non-swearing, only that someone had said it in the dressing room, but we hadn't, like, there's no, like, the referee told us not to swear. There's no one in, like, our clubs have told us not to swear on the pitch. It's kind of hard, like, because everything's in the heat of the moment, so. But no, I haven't heard anything like that. No, nothing's been said, like, so. But obviously, it's because it's been broadcasted, like, and there's no fans, so it'll probably be picked up, but, like, it's in the heat of the moment, like, people are going to say what they're going to say on the pitch, like, so it is hard.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye out for more of that then, to see if there's any more disciplines handed out for that kind of thing. But look, back to the actual football then, because it feels like at the moment we barely get to speak about it with everything else that's going on. The time off seems to have done you guys a great bit of good. You seem to have gotten well organised, fixed a few issues maybe you're having earlier in the season. Yeah. Is that how it feels?
Yeah. We like, there's no getting away from it. We had a few injuries at the start of the season. Obviously, it's no excuses. Like, we should have been performing better, but I think the boys settled in a lot. Even kind of just the end of COVID, before the COVID started, we started playing a bit better. And then, like, we were short at the back, and then there's boys filling in. But obviously, the break got gave a lot of time for some of the boys to get back fit. And we performed well then against Derry. We did our job, and obviously kept a clean sheet. So you can see that we were defensively better. We worked on a lot in the last 4 weeks or so. It's looking good.
It's an interesting one as well, because one of the lads flagged at me earlier that teams like Derry would have actually had a little bit more time than yourselves and quite a few other clubs. Did you guys, did it feel like pre-season then, or was it like, was it really, really ruthless, or was it just, were you able to kind of go, look, here's stuff we were lacking in the first 4 games, and this is what we're going to focus on all this time?
Yeah, like, it's hard to say, like, was it like a pre-season again? It did feel like a pre-season, I know, but it wasn't as long. But it was in the same way. It's because the season is shorter as well. It's like, there's just a different feel to it. Like, it's kind of just getting it done. Like everyone's saying, it's more like a sprint at the moment rather than a marathon. So it is a little bit different, but yeah, look, we knew what we needed to work on, and we were able to do that on Saturday night against Derry. So obviously it came off, but pushing on forward now, we need to keep the momentum. Obviously, that's what I'm saying. It's a bit gutting about the Waterford game being off, because hopefully we were hoping to be able to carry on into that and then on to Shells on Saturday, but it'll probably just have to be Shells then.
I suppose it's like training for a sprint rather than training for a marathon then, in that kind of sense. So watching a few of the games on WATCHLOI, there was a touch of rustiness throughout the league, and you can pretty much understand why that would be. On your own performance though, how did you feel considering the time off? Because looking from the outside, I mean, you didn't look particularly gassed at any point, but even there was a fair few really crisp touches from yourself, noticeably, which is, to be fair, probably one of your traits in the game anyway. But you know, there was none of that sort of taking the eye off and the ball rolls away. There was a fair bit of and of most of the Sligo team looked very, very sharp. How did you find your own performance? Now, did you feel at any point I'm struggling here, I'm running on empty?
No, I felt good. But like, there's definitely times where you do feel it. Sometimes, like when you're making sprints, whatever, in behind or whatever, it does take you a little minute or so. Like we're joking about after a game or whatever. Like, but it does take a little bit of time to kind of get back your breath back. Maybe for me, anyway. It's obviously different per position. But you do feel it. Like, you do know he's been off for 3 months. Like, let's be fair, and he's only had 4 weeks. But like, it just depends on how fit you were keeping over the off season. I know all the boys were keeping to a program, and like we were doing all our work. And a lot of boys were doing more than probably what was needed, which is good. And you could probably tell then we were fit. And like you were saying, Derry obviously had, I don't know if they were back 6 weeks compared to our 4 weeks, or were they back even earlier than that? Like, and I was thinking about that in my head before the game. These boys would probably be flying fit compared to us. But like, you wouldn't have known. So in that way, it's been good, yeah.
Your own performance, I suppose, it was good enough for the team on the social media to tweet about stream this man on WATCHLOI before you put him. We put him on OnlyFans. I can't imagine that's imminent. Sligo fans will be waiting a bit longer on that, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, they'll be waiting all for that, I'd say.
Talk to me about the penno and the run up. A lot of people hate the shimmy, the stop and all that, but it was, and again, showed the concentration levels high even at that point. Pretty confident stepping up, and you don't mind a bit of the run up and the shimmy and the stopping and all that?
No, it's something I've been working on for a while, so I've been practicing it for a while, so it's obviously probably just, I've had a few people say like they were all nervous watching it and like saying whatever about the stop, but you know, I've been practicing for a while now, so I'm confident doing it.
Is that just, do you notice the keeper, is it like what people say, you notice the keeper's slight movement beforehand and you're able to make your mind up, or is it all just part of the mind games?
No, yeah, of course. Like, the keeper wants to save the penalty too. Like he's obviously, if you keep your head down and just strike the ball, the keeper's going to cheat. Like, the keeper wants to jump one side, so like you say, it is a bit of mind games. He wants to save it and you want to score, so it's kind of who's going to jump first.
Well, it bodes well for you guys now that you're back on track, even with this game, postponed. That things are looking good for you again. Even I suppose in the run up to this, you'll just have to do a bit of the same and a bit of the planning for the Saturday game. And obviously, you've got the new signing that a lot of people were talking about, Junior coming into the team now as well. Considering the goals he brought to Derry, I imagine you guys would be pretty pleased with that addition.
Yeah, no, definitely. He obviously hasn't trained with us yet because he's quarantined for 2 weeks. I think he's coming in at, like, the boys were all training in the morning or whatever, and I think he comes in around the afternoon and he's working with the coaches. Probably isn't great because he's probably just doing some running on his own. But he's obviously it's a big signing, isn't he? He was top goal scorer last year. Something that we need, a winger that can score goals and can get into the mix. And look, he's going to be a good player for us. So it's obviously great for us going forward. So hopefully, I don't think he's available till probably after the Shells game. So I think sooner we can get him in, the better. Anyway.
I hadn't even thought of, I thought of that for the match itself, that he wasn't available due to quarantine, but I hadn't even thought about what he'd been doing off the pitch. And apart from not being able to train with you guys, he's probably not been able to interact much at all with you guys so far. How I imagine once he does, it'll be a totally different story. You'll be getting him right in, and as you said, trying to certainly from your own point of view and whoever's up there with yourselves, form a bit of a relationship in that sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like we seen last year, he's obviously a really good player, so probably won't take him long to settle in. But yeah, obviously it's just a bit shit that he has to do the quarantine and can't really train with us. But I'm sure once he gets in, he gets full swing, like he'll be quality for us.
Well, your next game, as you said, Shells on Saturday, still a while away. But how will you guys maintain, I suppose, the intensity and what's the plans for the meantime? I know you're fairly, where you were certainly through quarantine, fairly busy on Twitch, and we even spoke to you for the FIFA tournament for cystic fibrosis and all that a while back. So any more of that, or is it all just training now?
Yeah, no, a lot of it's just training. Obviously, it's going to change now, like I said, because the game will be in the gym and stuff. We'll be doing weight, and a lot of it will be just training, getting ready, recovering as well. Like, obviously, we just played against Derry, so even today, like, we're training today, kind of just ended up making it into a tougher session than it would have been once we found out the news. We stayed on a bit longer and did a bit more work. But yeah, it'll just be more on the grass and keeping the momentum, staying fit and stuff. So it'll lift me just more the same, yeah.
And just lastly, I saw Liam Buckley talking, I think it was in the Sun the other day, just saying he was sick as a pig at the stoppage when he saw that Sligo were at the bottom. And I imagine you're all feeling that kind of way. But how did Liam get that across to you guys? I imagine there's a bit of, come on, look, we're miles better than this, you know?
Yeah, no, look, everyone knows, like, it's not like, well, everyone on the team, I mean, like, it's not like we can't see it ourselves. Like, we're obviously training every day. We know there's quality in the group. We had a sticky start. Like I said, we had a few injuries, but it's no excuse. I think when you just look around the dressing room and you see the players, and especially junior coming in as well, we know that we've got quality. Like, we just need to be able to just get it out of us, which obviously we did against Derry, and hopefully we can do going forward.
Ronan, look, thanks a million for taking time to chat to us, and best of luck on Saturday when you do eventually get back to action.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And you're joined by Daniel Corcoran. Daniel, professional footballer from Dublin.
Just outside the city, Phibsborough it's called.
Right. Who'd you play for?
Bohemians FC.
The Bohemians.
Might have 189 not written down. Oh, sorry, it's gone.
Oh, Corcoran. Daniel?
I think I have 829. 100 minus 9 times by 9
is 819.
And add the 10.
Very nicely done, 829.
Well done. And towards Start with a consonant, please.
Consonant, please, Carol.
Right, well, let's talk a little bit about the first division then. We neglected it a bit last week. Big issue with the streams for Galway Longford. They've sort of defied the FAI and gone ahead and streamed the game. Bit of difficulty around this in that it came through very late. I mean, we had the show released last week by the time this came out, so we weren't really able to get into it. But what are your thoughts on this, lads? It seems, from my point of view, like that this wasn't made clear. There seems to have been a lack of clarity on the FAI side, and as a result, teams like Galway were a bit like, well, look, we're going through all this hassle. We've got this all set up. You can't tell us now.
Is the issue charging people to watch the games?
They can show them for free, but they can't charge for them, which is basically what happened. Was 3 weeks ago when the WATCHLOI platform was being formalised, the clubs were basically told that they could do what they want. And then last week, 2 days before the game started, the FAI, I think they had a meeting with a few club delegates, but then they sent out this letter to all the clubs basically saying that while you're free to stream games, you're not permitted to charge for them. And it was worded in a way that very much suggested that it was due to the WATCHLOI, platform. It's hard to know exactly what it is. I think there is an issue in terms of, because the first division clubs are being paid a cut of the WATCHLOI platform, there's an idea that it's not fair that the first division clubs can then go and stream their games and sell them. The flip side of that is that some of the first division clubs have invested quite heavily in broadcasting equipment on the understanding that they could sell streaming passes to cover their costs. I'm not sure the exact breakdown of how things are working in the Premier Division, but my understanding is that there's no cost to the clubs to broadcast the games. It's all been covered by the FAI WATCHLOI program. So there is a difference there, and I can see why the first division clubs are quite perturbed that, although they are getting a share of the revenue from WATCHLOI, they have also invested now, and several of the clubs are now in a situation where they've spent money and they're not able to recoup it. So there's two sides of it. Yeah, it's a complex one. The rules aren't all set out and written there from the start. Then people are going to find these situations arising. So unfortunately, it's another messy one that, look, this is going to drag on. We're probably going to get updates for this for the next few weeks. So I expect to be talking about this again in the coming weeks and months. In the meantime, let's talk about a few of the games. Dave, you were at UCD Longford. Yeah, it was I suppose a decent enough return to action. No goals. UCD were the better side, particularly in the first half. Longford looked completely lost. UCD looked very impressive. Back to the old UCD that we know, the sort of free passing, one-touch football, nobody can get near them. For the entire first half, it was just all UCD, but the one thing they were lacking was, I guess, a final ball. They didn't really create any clear-cut chances. Longford made a couple of changes early in the second half, and they did come back into it, probably the better side for the second half. They brought on Dylan Grimes, who was probably the first person in the game who really started to create. But although UCD had most of the play, and I think we're overall the better side, it was Longford to create the better chances. But on balance, I think 0-0 was a fair enough result. And just from speaking to Andy Myler after the game, he was kind of in agreement that, you know, there's a lot of positives. They've having had the last month or so with the players all off college, they've actually been able to do more pre-season, if you call it, preparation than they would in any other window, certainly not before the actual season started. So they do look very impressive, very well drilled, very fit. They did look, at least for about 50-55 minutes, they looked a step ahead of Longford. But I think both of those teams they'll maybe struggle for consistent goals this season, but they do both look sound defensively as well. So just in terms of the first division, I think Cabinteely are already racing ahead, but you know, with a shortened season, who knows how things are going to go. Those two teams in particular look good bets that they could potentially get into a playoff situation and give anybody a game.
Yeah, you mentioned Cabinteely there, so we'll come on to them next. A really strong start to the season for them overall, thanks to goals from Kevin Knight and Shane Barnes. They're now 5 points clear. Galway, to be fair to them, missing a fair few players for that. I did see, even when I was having a look at betting and stuff like that around the games, I thought, geez, Cab are very, very big for this, considering I'm reading the team news on Extratime.ie, there seems to be like 6 or 7 players missing for Galway at the time. So it feels like this will be a different Galway team. I think they're down at 8th at the moment, so it feels like probably a different Galway team the next few weeks. And again, same stuff with this issue of the streaming games. They've been very, very vocal in that we're going ahead with it anyway, so they're not listening to this kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes from each of these sides. Cabo, interesting considering, I mean, they did lose. I know they've recruited well, but they did lose players like Manley. I would have thought we'd see some fall away, but it doesn't seem to have been the case. They're flying it. I think they scored 10 goals in their 4 games so far, so going very, very strong indeed. Macdara, you were at Rovers 2 or Rovers II, or I genuinely can't remember what we're calling them anymore. You were at Rovers Drogheda anyway. And we're going to hear from Tim Clancy after the game in a minute on that. But just with Liam Scales playing there, you might tell me how exactly that's working.
Yeah, there was a bit of confusion yesterday because Liam Scales is 21 and I was going, well, maybe he's eligible to play in this team. But no, I was talking to Aidan Price after the game, and so the players that are in Rovers' first division squad are born 1999 or later. So Scales was born in 98, so he is too old. Rovers are allowed 1 overage outfield player from their senior squad, and also a goalkeeper. So Leon Poles is playing in goal. The German, he's 24 years old. So that's what the rules are. It was a little bit different the last time when Rovers were in the first division in 2014. They were allowed 3 overage players. But having said all that, because they're allowed name a squad of you know, those born 99 and later, like they were able to have Dean Williams in the team, and he was a sub the previous day in Stephen Bradley's team, and Brandon Kavanagh has also been a sub once this season for Stephen Bradley's team. He played the game and he was a playmaker. He got the assist for both goals, corners, like Liam Scales scored within 40 seconds. So yeah, that's just to kind of clarify why, kind of how Liam Scales was available. So he'd been on the bench, but an unused sub in Rovers' Premier Division game against Finn Harps the previous day.
So despite all that, and as you said, Scales scoring in 45 seconds, and a red card from Hughes, about 3 or 4 minutes later, Drogheda pulled one back and then went on to equalise in the game. Not an ideal result. Price mustn't have been too pleased about that.
No, he wasn't, but really Rovers should have won. Thomas Lew hit the post, Dean Williams hit the crossbar with 2 really good chances where they should have just put them away and the game would have been over. But you know, Drogheda played very well and they were probably deserved. I think they deserved to having played with 10 men for nearly an hour. Like Tim Clancy made a couple of quick changes. He brought one player on, Luke Heaney, who then got injured 6 minutes later with a fairly strong tackle. There was a bit of debate whether that should have been a red card as well, but Clancy didn't think so, which I thought was quite fair. It was in front of him. He said it was a pretty strong tackle. But I think the key was they got a goal back. That they were able then to kick on, and Rovers were just a little bit naive. Like they'd in 3 of their 4 games, they've let goals in, equalisers or a concession in the last kind of 5 minutes. So like they let in a winner against Cabinteely in injury time, 86 minutes. I think Galway equalised in the last home game. So yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. But maybe the other thing of note was Rovers brought on this player Kevin Zeffy, who's only 15, who there's been a bit of paper talk about Inter Milan and PSV Eindhoven looking after him. So he came on with about 15 minutes to go and showed a couple of nice touches as well. But while it is about developing players at Rovers, and that's what Price was talking about, you still want to come away and get a win when you can. And they've played 4 games now and have yet to win a game.
Let's hear from Tim Clancy now then, and big thanks to Adrian Taff from LMFM who passed us on this audio.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining game. Not for me or Aidan on the sideline, but no, I think they started the game really well, and right from the kick-off they put a ball where Jimmy should have had it away, and he's tried to go back to the keeper and we give away a corner, and then they score within 40 seconds at the start of the game, and sort of puts us in the back foot, and we didn't really get going. Found ourselves 2-0 down from another set piece, which is very frustrating, conceding 2 goals from 2 corners, and then Sparky gets sent off after half an hour or whatever it was in 28 minutes, and we started looking at it and we hadn't started well, and we made a couple of changes, and from that point on I thought the energy levels and the application, everything else was very, very good, and we were delighted to get a point in the end.
Let's talk about the sending off. I almost said 2 sending offs, because there was certainly the press box was a bit polarised on the challenge on Luke Heaney. What did you make first of the Mark Hughes sending off and then the challenge on Luke?
I think Mark's is a red card. He's taken a heavy touch and Liam Scales has read it and he's sort of tried to make up for it, and he's lunged in and he's caught Liam, so it's a red card and no problems with that one. And then the Rovers players is sort of lunged in as well. The difference is he's got the ball, but he's had a straight leg and he's had his studs up, and he's caught Luke. 2 of them hit the ball at the same time, and I don't know what the rules are, but I think it's dangerous play if you dive in like that, and I thought it could have been a red card, but Adriano says he didn't see it. So listen, you get some and you win some, you have some on your side and you don't get them. So listen, after that then I thought we were excellent. We brought on James Clark after that stage, and I thought he was superb coming on and gave us that little bit of quality on the ball and take it in tight areas, and he turned a few times and slipped a few balls in, nearly scored himself. And with Brandon Birmingham as well, that gave us a lot of energy on that side of the pitch with Doyler. And listen, I thought we were excellent. Tried them man for man after that. I thought we were fantastic, and to come away with a draw after being 2-0 down after 20 odd minutes away from home, it's a real positive.
Yeah, coming into the game you were no doubt favourites to win it, given your position in the table and that this is a Shamrock Rovers B-side, but that was more than a Shamrock Rovers B-side. So there was lots of quality in that side this afternoon.
They're very good footballers, very, very good footballers, and they pass it around well, they pick it up in really dangerous areas and awkward areas to defend, and they're a really good team, and we watched them here against Galway and they should have won that game. So I know they only lost in the last minute out in Cabo and away from home, and Longford as well. They were very competitive in their first game, so I think they'll get stronger as the season goes on, and they'll play. They'll obviously take a lot of points this season. They're a very, very good team, and listen, should their finishing have been a bit more on song today, or their final ball a bit more quality, they would have won the game by a number of goals. So listen, we're happy enough to get away with a point.
Wexford got their first win against Athlone. Didn't look like all the time was going to happen. They went 1 up, and Manning managed to pull one back for Athlone, who are still rooted to the bottom of the league there with 9 goals conceded. But Wexford's still an interesting one. Little bit of work in progress at the moment by the looks of it. 3-1 win for them. But it's interesting, a win like that puts them into 4th. You know, so it shows you.
There's only 4 games played, so it's
early days.
It is early enough days, but no, it gets them up and about. Like say, Cabinteely, 4 wins, have been very impressive. So, but yeah, early days, as you say.
I should highlight with the streams and stuff like that, as you mentioned, even teams like Wexford, they weren't able to stream games, but they did manage to show replays on their Facebook and stuff like that. So
and Drogheda put up their goals pretty quickly after the game as well, which I think was great.
Absolutely. Just before we do wrap up, actually, the passing of John Hume, just before we're recording here as well, is an interesting one, obviously affiliated with Derry City, having been their president. And it was something actually I was a bit ignorant to. I didn't even realise until Dave mentioned it to me there off air. But I thought, plenty of respects being paid and all that. Our very own Turlock Kelly, who did the Italian 90 podcast with us, I saw a very, very interesting tweet from him, so I just thought I'd flag this one. An underrated aspect of John Hume's origin story is that he was a promising left-arm spinner for City of Derry Cricket Club until their premises started being burned down by sectarian gangs. So
did not know that. Didn't know he was a cricket fan.
Yeah, really interesting guy behind it all with all of this kind of stuff. So our deepest sympathies, obviously, to John's friends and family and to the club at this time, who I'm sure will pay their respects as well. That's it from us again for this week. We'll be back next week. A big thanks to yourself, Macdara and Dave, and also to Ronan and Coughlan for coming on to chat to us. We'll speak to you next week.